So this episode is going to revolve basically all around the Albany Empire. Their first 4 weeks of the season, we're going to break down the last game against Orlando. We'll do some power rankings, but first I want to introduce my guest for the evening. You know him, you'll love him, Tom Goslowski. Gaz, how are we doing today?
What's up, Ryan McCarthy? Thank you so much for having me back, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Gaz obviously is the CEO, COO, and CFO of Godzilla Media, but he's also color commentary on YouTube streams for the Albany Empire home games. So how's that experience been? How's that experience been so far, guys?
It has been a lot of fun. First, shout out to my partner, Andrew Santillo, who's done a great job with the play-by-play side of it. Andrew and I really didn't know each other before the broadcast started, and I'm talking about like the season. So it's been fun to learn more about him. We kind of knew of each other, but didn't know each other. So it's been fun working with him. The production side of the Albany Empire, what a great job across the board. Bo and his team have done a tremendous job of, if you've been watching it on YouTube, that is the same coverage you get inside the Times Union Center, from replays to slow motion to the reaction of the crowd. It has been a ton of fun watching the games alongside the Albany Empire fans so far this summer. I can't wait till the team's back inside the Times Union Center in July. So we only do the home games, not the away games. But still, We've got to do a lot of cool stuff with the Albany Empire. I get to wear my ring in public and not my wonderful engagement ring that I'm showing here on the visual side, but I actually get to wear the Empire Championship ring from 2019. I know, right? Like, I even told myself, I'm like, I'm going to be that guy who's going to post it on social media. I didn't make a tackle. I didn't make a catch. I was throwing T-shirts, but I'm like, there are no other moments in my life where I'm going to wear this in public. So I got to do that for the last home game. Yeah,
you're getting the crowd amped up. The crowd is the ninth man, so you're that's your job. You're just getting everybody amped up for the next play. Speaking of play, let's talk about the Orlando game this past Saturday. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. I watched the entire thing. Let's go over the game itself. So the first half, kind of a shaky start for the Empire. They scored in their first possession, make a defensive stop, then they get stopped. Orlando goes up. Empire tries to respond. They get stopped in the end zone. They get stopped with an interception, and then Orlando goes up a couple touchdowns. To me, it seemed a bit shaky for a while. Did the Empire look kind of nervous to you?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially with these types of matchups, because this take I'm going to have is more so in the college ranks and the high school ranks and the professional ranks. And what I mean by that is the team that's coming to your spot, like you're traveling, it's a big game, and they hype themselves up, and they want to play so well in that first quarter that it means so much more to them. I feel like that means a lot more in college and high school because the emotions and a big play and the crowd, the immaturity in life has an impact on those games, and that's why those games can be so much fun. But when you're at the professional level, it's just talent and speed, contracts. Like, you can only do so much at the professional level that if you're not hyping yourself up for the game, you're not going to get paid. Like, that's the motivation enough for pro athletes. It seemed as if this game down in Florida, they were ready to go. Orlando stepped up and they felt like, okay, although maybe nationally, maybe a more well-known franchise historically than the Albany Empire, the Albany Empire just walked in to this league and think they're the best team. We're going to step up our game and show them, no, you just don't walk in year one and try to do this. It seemed like there was some extra motivation for Orlando early in that game.
Yeah, especially when you have a home opener like that. You're in front of your home crowd for the first time this season. They had played away the last 2 weeks. They played in Columbus, played Columbus pretty close. We'll talk about Columbus in a little bit, but they played Columbus pretty close. They got Columbus pulled away at the end, and they go into to Jacksonville, their interstate rival, and they take care of business there. I mean, that was a shocking game to me because I figured Jacksonville, all right, it's their home opener. They're the defending champion. Yeah, we had back in 2019. Unfortunately, we couldn't play the 2019 season because of COVID, or 2020 season because of COVID. But you figure, well, a lot of those guys returning from the championship team, they're going to come out and ball out, and they look pretty good for the first half, and then all of a sudden their starting quarterback goes down. Their starting quarterback, the Jacksonville Sharks, was Mike Foffel, who played for the Empire in 2018. He goes down with a significant injury. I think he's out for the rest of the season, unfortunately. And they put their second string quarterback. He gets roughed up. Predators pull away in the final quarter, and they come into their home opener. They're jazzed. I mean, they're jacked up. They're ready to go. They're ready to prove themselves and maybe go for a possible upset. And it looked like pretty early that was going to happen.
Yeah, it did feel like that, right? Like the potential upsets on the way. And this is the fun part about NAL football, isn't it? That it's so much harder to figure out when an upset is really brewing in the second quarter because the speed in which these teams can score. Is an upset 2 touchdowns? Is an upset 20 points? Is it just because the Empire are undefeated and you feel like anyone's even close to them in the first half? It feels like an upset. That is what I find so intriguing about this style of football, is that even an upset brewing, you could be up 2 touchdowns, and by the time halftime hits, you actually could be trailing in the game because of how efficient these offenses can be.
Exactly that. And Orlando actually went up. They went up by a couple scores, and Albany had to play comeback. So Albany goes down early in the first quarter. Orlando's playing really solid defense, really solid offense too. Empire's trying to keep up, and then Albany gets a stop late in the first half. They come back. They drive down the field. Get a couple quick strikes. Obviously, Tommy Grady to Darius Prince and a couple strikes. They're back in the game. Then they go up to take the lead into the locker room. At that point, guys, you go into halftime. You're away from your home. You're in the locker room, and you get the ball first in the second half. If you're coming from somebody who's played the game, you played college football, but you've played football. You played football a good amount of your life. If you're up in the first half, after the first half, and you had the ball first in the second half, what's the primary motivation? Is the primary motivation to go out and score right away, or do you want to control the ball? What do you want to do?
Well, I say this a lot on the broadcast, and I've said this on former radio shows and podcasts and everything else. So some people who followed it, they're probably sick of me saying this, but the first series in the first half and the first series in the second half is all about coaching. Because remember, those plays usually in football, the first 5 to 10, you have an idea of what's going to happen, where the ball is going to be, time of possession. Coaches spend all week drawing up those first 5 to 10 plays. So those plays, that's coaching, because that's what they did all week long. You flip it over to the second half, the guys up in the booth, the guys behind the board, the guys on the sidelines. What second half adjustments have you made? What weakness or what strength did you see that you can capitalize on in that second half? So usually that first drive is about coaching, and that's what it should be. Okay, what did we pick up on the first half where we as a team can excel at and take the lead and continue to do that? So that's what I usually look for in those halves. And both teams had interesting adjustments that had to make to put themselves in better position, whether it's Orlando to extend the lead, whether it's Albany to come back. And early in that second half, it was about coaching. So credit to those staffs for trying to pull those things off.
Yeah, second half, and it just goes back and forth in the third quarter. Both teams score some important touchdowns, but then the fourth quarter comes along, and that's when the Empire took over. The defense in particular took over. Again, a couple things to clean up, I must admit, such as the illegal defense penalties they had. Kind of became an epidemic of that. But they got a sack for the fourth straight game. Excuse me. They got a sack. Their defensive line gets a sack, and they force a turnover. So how important is it that in kind of a close game as this, how important are turnovers and sacks?
You know who is not going to like this answer, or who is maybe going to like the first part, now the second part, is our pal Joe Sykes. One of the all-time great indoor arena football players of all time. The rumor going around here in the capital region was that Joe Sykes at some point was going to unretire, suit up, put the number 1 on, and go play. Coach Joe Sykes has shown that this defensive line of this linebacking core continues to be one of the top in the entire league. And it's hard to say that because I said this on the broadcast in the last home game. Okay, Prince might be the best wide receiver. Ross is historically, with his stats, one of the best running backs in indoor football history. You've got Tommy Grady, who's won MVPs and Arena Bowls. So you've got the best wide receiver, quarterback, running back. All right, that should be it. Well, what about the linebackers? What about the DBs? What about the D-line? These guys might be trying to one-up each other constantly, and it's credit to Joe Sykes as a coach for getting this defense to step up and make some plays for him.
Yeah, I think with the Empire having such a young lineup, especially on the defensive side, their secondary defensive backs and the safeties, they're all first-year rookie players. And also their linebackers are the same way. Credit to that defensive staff, the coaching staff, Joe Sykes and his also the defensive coordinator for putting together a defensive game plan, and also with Coach Minash for putting together a great defensive game play, especially in the fourth quarter, where they're going right after the quarterback. Kenneth Magruder, my God, he had some thunderous hits again this week.
Magruder and Shorts and Macon, all those guys. Magruder, especially the Big 12 player from Oklahoma State, his story is wild, right? Traveling up from Texas from the tryout and getting on the team.
Yeah.
It's a wild moment. I actually didn't finish this. I was going to say, and I almost didn't want to say that. I think it must have been like an instinct in my head that I thought, well, the part that Joe Sykes wouldn't like is they don't need him. Like, they don't need him, Ryan, right? Do they? Yeah. They haven't been tested enough. The D-line's good enough. I love Joe Sykes. I'm sure he wants to play deep down somewhere. I know he's retired, but they're not desperate that they need him to suit up and put the number 1 jersey on again.
No, it would take a catastrophic injury for him to come out of retirement and suit up. But right now, the way that defensive line is playing, getting after the quarterback, 4 straight games with a sack, and again 4 straight games with a turnover, whether it be a fumble or an interception. This defense is proven to be arguably the best in the league.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what's the amazing part about it, is that everywhere top to bottom, the Albany Empire are a top-tier team.